Coming up this week on Arts Matter, we'll introduce you to artist Claire Hall. A little girl from Kilbride, Claire Hall, went on a road to discovery that took her from Kilbride to Burlington, well, to an island, to Toronto, and right back here to Burlington today. Andrew Nicholson is with Claire, discussing how all of her art has led her to this very moment.
And welcome. I'm here with Claire Hall, and Claire is one of those fantastic stories. Wow, she came from where? She did what? And she's a Burlington person. Claire, welcome.
Thank you very much.
This is pretty exciting for you. We're here at the Water Street Cooker on the lake, and this is a show, an art show, and this is all your stuff.
I know, I'm so excited about it. I couldn't be more thrilled. It's been months of hard work, and I'm really excited to be in my hometown.
This is pretty cool. Months of hard work. Now that's interesting because we've
Yes.
walked around all of this hard work, and there's a lot here.
Yes, there is.
And Claire Hall, you've done all this in 2012.
Yes, I have. I'm not going to tell you how quickly I do it because that's kind of my little secret, but I definitely am the type of artist that I like to start a painting and I kind of don't stop until it's finished. So that may mean late nights and long hours, but I try and work as quickly as I can.
Now let's go right back to the beginning because Claire,
Sure.
you're from Burlington.
I am from Burlington, yes.
Let's get a little history on who you are, where you came from, and where we're going with this.
Sure. Well, I came from a little town of Kilbride, which is on top of the Niagara Escarpment.
It is a lovely place.
It is a very lovely place. So I'm kind of a country girl at heart. And then went to school at Lester B. Pearson in downtown Burlington.
Yep.
My family eventually moved downtown. And now I'm in Toronto, but definitely Burlington is my home, and that's where my heart is.
That's good.
Yeah.
Now, Kilbride, nice little area to come from.
Yes.
I look at a lot of your work, and there's a lot of trees and beautiful vistas and things like that. Does that come from Kilbride?
Yeah, it definitely plays an influence in my art. You'll see lots of barns and landscapes and trees, like you said, and that was my setting growing up, and that was the landscape that I was used to looking at every day. And luckily, that lends itself to the styles of homes in Burlington. So I thought that would be appropriate for this show.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about Lester B. Pearson, because it's interesting. Now, here's an interesting point. We have Claire Hall, very
Yes.
successful, coming from Lester B. Pearson. We have, like, Ryan Gosling came from Lester B. Pearson. What is it about Pearson? What's going on?
I don't know. I'm hoping to get to Ryan Gosling's status one day. That's the plan. If I could be a name like him, that I would have made it for sure. I don't know. And you know what? There's another very successful group of people that came out of Pearson. Johnny Nicasio is in a band that is really making it big right now. They covered a song from Coyote, and the band is called Walk Off the Earth. And they were just on Ellen, and it's so inspiring so inspiring to see all these Burlington people doing so well. So trying to follow in their footsteps.
That's good. So
Yeah.
what is it about Pearson? Did you have a good life in Pearson? Do you enjoy it?
Pearson was amazing.
Yeah?
It was. I have such fond memories from Pearson, and all of my friends that went to school there were still best friends. And it was such a nice community to grow up in. And yeah, there was lots of love in Pearson and really lasting friendships. Even people in different groups of friends, I see that they're all still together. They're all still friends. So I don't know. It was
some good people from Pearson. Rick
Yeah.
MacArthur, Kevin Grant, good teacher.
Yes, I love those teachers too. Yeah.
Really good people. I used to coach there as well, but that's
Oh.
neither here nor there. Yeah, gotta know who I'm all about, right?
There you go.
So now you went from Pearson, and you went where?
So from Pearson, I actually fast-tracked through school and moved to the Caribbean.
Oh, shame. Sorry.
Yes, yeah. I always wanted to live on a beach, and my parents told me if I fast-tracked through school, then I could do that. So at 18, I said, okay, I'm ready to go. And they're like, oh no, we actually told her that she could do this. So they got on a plane with me and set me up in St. Martin. And my dad said that on the way home, it was the first time my mom had a panic attack, wondering why they left their 18-year-old girl on an island. But yeah, so I was there for a year and then moved back and ended up going to Toronto. So from a beautiful Caribbean setting to a city, I wasn't so sure about it at first. I kind of missed the beach, but then eventually I loved Toronto. I learned to love it, and you kind of discover all the different little communities in Toronto. I think I was really missing that community feel that I did have in Kilbride, in Burlington, in the Caribbean, and then I was in a big city. But now I've gotten used to it.
That's good.
Yeah.
So St. Martin's a nice place to go.
Yes.
Why did you choose St. Martin?
Well, one of my teachers from Pearson, actually, Madame Grandin, she was my French teacher. And I wanted to speak French and to practice my French. I was, I think, the only core French student that took it up until OAC. And so I was thrown in a class of French immersion students and totally didn't know what I was talking about, but I tried to fake it. So I wanted to continue my French studies, so I ended up moving to St. Martin. She actually suggested it and said that she loved it there and said that it would be a great place for me to go. So on her suggestion, that's where I ended up going.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So what was life on the beach for a year like?
Oh, it was awful. No, it was amazing. It was the best year of my life, for sure. And Ireland's really interesting because you get people from all over the world. Everyone has their own story. You all end up on this little piece of land in the middle of the Caribbean Sea. And it was just such a special time in my life and so neat to get to know all these people from all over the world. And now whenever I travel everywhere, like you can't really stay in St. Martin forever. You kind of have to go home at some point because the opportunity there is limited. But now it's great whenever I travel because I can have someone to stay with wherever I go. I feel like I know people all over the world now.
Now, so you went from St. Martin, you ended up in Toronto, downtown Toronto.
Yes.
Okay. So you were a 9-to-5er in downtown Toronto, were you not?
Yeah, I was a 9 to 5er or like 9 to 9er, 9 to 10er, whatever, whatever was called for that day.
Right.
But I remember my first day of 9 to 5 and it being lunch hour. I'm like, okay, this has been a lot of hours already. I don't know, this is a long time. I thought 8 hours of my day not being creative was hard right away.
Now, what were you doing?
I was working in fashion sales,
Right.
so I was a sales manager for a fashion designer. I went to Ryerson for fashion, so I was really lucky to have gotten a job in my industry. But eventually, I did well at sales. I did really well at sales, but I really was missing that creativity, and I really had this longing to be creative.
So the fashion design, because you did go to Ryerson.
Yes.
And you were, if I remember correctly, you designed some of your own clothing, right?
Yes, I designed clothing. I always helped run the fashion show at
Right.
Pearson.
Right.
So I design clothing. I do a lot of like buy my own clothing, then alter it and little things like that. So then ended up going to school for it. And but like I said before, it wasn't necessarily satisfying to my creative side.
Right.
Yeah.
So, if you were going to describe your creative side, what would it be? Where's the impetus of creation for you? Where does it come from? I love these little left curve I just said. That's good.
Yeah. You know what? Since I've been young, I've always felt this need to be creative, and I found that through painting at a very early age, and I always did it as a hobby. And I think it's so important for every person to have a creative outlet, whatever that may be, whether it's music, writing, painting like myself. But I was lucky enough to find that creative expression and be able to kind of zone in on it and try and find a way to make money out of it.
So we have about 2 minutes in the segment.
Sure.
When you started, you're going through the process. You're working in 9 to 5, 9 to 10, 9 to 11.
Yes.
What was going through your head? Like, you know what? I'm painting. I'm enjoying it. How did we sort of genesis to where we are now?
So sorry, going from fashion.
From fashion into say, I want to do this full time. Where was I?
Yes. Okay. So the way my story happened was I always did art as kind of a side thing, but just for myself. So I just one day was taking pictures with my BlackBerry of some of my art that was in my apartment and uploaded it to Facebook and not thinking anything of it. And within a day, I had over 20 orders for paintings.
Wow.
Yeah, so being the person that I am and having the personality that I do, I took that as a sign that I should quit my job. So I ended up quitting my job. And I remember that day I was leaving for a business trip, and I called my mother from Seattle and said, Mom, I'm quitting my job and I'm going to be an artist full time. And my poor mom was like, oh, great. Are you sure? That's what you want to do.
We put you on an island and you come back and now you want to quit your job.
Yeah. So after I did the fashion sales for 2 years, and that was a very, very valuable experience. Right. But then once I think the whole Facebook happening, it showed me that there was a potential to make money doing what I love to do. So I thought I should take the opportunity to at least try.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to be back right after this with Claire Hall, and we'll find out how the transition went from fashion into art, and we'll look at some of this beautiful art. Stay with us, please.
Get lost, loser.
Yeah, be it, stupid.
What's wrong with you? Nobody likes you. Get lost, loser.
Yeah, be it, stupid.
Nobody likes you. What's wrong with you? Nobody likes you.
Stand up, don't stand by. You can help put a stop to online abuse.
If you have information about any form of internet abuse, contact Crime Stoppers and report it anonymously at 1-800-222-TIPS.
And welcome back. We're here again with the Water Street Cooker, actually, in Burlington, and we're with Claire Hall. Claire, now we've seen the transition of your life from
Yes.
that little kid in Kilbride
Yeah.
to Pearson to Ryerson to here.
Yes.
Now, here is the art.
Yes.
Tell us. So we started. You're on Facebook. You get 20 orders on Facebook.
Yeah.
Where do you go from there? Like all of a sudden, people are like, oh, I really like this stuff. So how does this work?
Okay, so I got the orders on Facebook, so I guess I started on those right away. And I made the transition of quitting my job, and then I decided that I know I'm not the type of person that can work from home. You know, I would think that I would find myself by noon, you know, I would have cleaned the house, done the laundry, and not worked at all. So I knew that I needed an office space or a studio space. So I started looking for that, and then I figured once I committed to that, then I knew that I really had to work hard to pay for these things. So that's kind of how it started. And you go through family and friends, right? And then you kind of max out your own network. And after that, I decided instead of necessarily doing what a lot of other artists do, like doing all the shows and going through those streams, that I would target different media outlets and try and get my name out there that way.
Okay.
Try and be a little bit different.
So where did you go then? What kind of media outlets did you go after?
Well, I was lucky enough to get the Toronto Star right away. And after I got that, I mean, it's such huge distribution that overnight I went from a starving artist to not a starving artist. So that really helped. And then different media outlets in Toronto, even blogs, any type of free publicity that would get my name out there. I even, my studio right now is at the corner of John and Adelaide. So
That's too bad.
it's a very high traffic area. So
Yeah.
on any nice day, I'll go and set up easels out front of my studio and paint, and you know, thousands of people walk by. So even getting my name out there that way.
That's great. Mm-hmm. That's great. Now let's look at what kind of medium do we work in when you're doing your artwork. What's your favorite medium to work with?
I've always worked in oils.
Okay.
Yeah, I love oil paint and I love texture. So I'm sure, as you know, oils take so long to dry.
Yes.
So I had to think of or find out a way to get that textured effect without having to wait years for the thick oils to dry. So I discovered a texture medium, which is probably on all of my pieces. So that would be the base. I would do the molding with the kind of modeling clay, let it dry overnight, and then put a thin layer of oils on top, usually alkyds because they're fast drying as opposed to oils. And that's most of my pieces. And then other pieces, I'll use acrylics, but just for ones. I love the blending capabilities of oil, but the fast drying capabilities of acrylics. So maybe even if it's a piece that I need to have out in the next couple days, then it might be done in acrylic. But other than that, I usually stick to oils.
So all of your, well, it seems I went on your website, lovely website, by the way.
Thank you.
Congratulations to your brother who did that for you.
Yes,
Sam Goldberg.
that was my brother.
Yep. Now, you have, a lot of your stuff is custom. So
Yes.
how does that work? So someone comes to you and says, I have this idea, I want this. How does that work with an artist? Because an artist usually is working with their own head.
Right. There's a process that I go through when I have a client come to me who's looking for something custom. So normally what we'll do is I'll have them send me a picture of their home so I can get an idea of existing colors, existing accessories. And then from there, I'll talk to them about style. What are they thinking of? Did they see something from the website that they liked? Can they send me photos referencing other art that they like? What colors would they like to see? What size of canvas? And from there, I'll make a mock-up, like a digital mock-up,
Right.
and then actually put the painting on their wall in the space that it's going to be so that they can see what it's going to look like before they commit. Because I know it's hard to try and visualize, what you're thinking in your head is to what I'm thinking in my head. So that way we can cut out the gray area and, it's not like I walk over with a painting
You don't
and I
like.
say surprise and they don't really like it. Yeah, so that seems to work really well.
Now,
Process.
color is a very personal thing.
Yes.
Right? Obviously, as you suggest, you get something that matches their interior of the home and what have you. Do you find that people sometimes, like personally, if I have a sort of a bland wall,
Yes.
right? I like color, but a bland wall. I really like striking art. So I
Yeah.
really want that art,
Yes.
that really powerful colors. Are people like that? Are people more pastels, like a better term?
I've found that most people are like you. Most people do have lots of neutrals in their home, so they're really looking for that punch or that wow factor. And a lot of people have sat with bare walls for years of living in that home, so they're really ready for a statement piece.
Yeah. Do you find that people walk in and with your art, because it's very diverse in so many ways. Would you find that people walk in and they get that wow, or is it like, oh, that's really nice? What do you feel people feel about your art?
Everyone's different. That's the thing. And everyone's reactions are different. And different people are drawn to certain pieces. That's why it's so interesting for me to do shows and to see, how people interpret the abstract, what people see, what colors they like, what paintings people like. So just so that I can know that I'm kind of on track. And usually I didn't know when I decided to do this full time because I do so many different styles if I should zone in on one style so that people could know that that was a Claire Hall piece because I only do abstract. But I didn't want to. I wanted to do everything. And I'm actually glad that I decided to do that because it appeals to a wider audience.
True.
Yeah, so now I get, people of all ages with all different types of homes that can find something that will suit their space.
Now, it's interesting. You mentioned to me earlier that Burlington is very different in many ways than Toronto. Now, we all obviously know that.
Yeah.
But tell us why Burlington is different. What do you find different about Burlington as compared to your clients in Toronto?
Well, my clients from Burlington tend to order florals and landscapes as opposed to abstract. And I think that's because a lot of the homes here are very traditional homes. And those styles lend themselves better to the decor that's already existing in their homes.
Right. So now, today, obviously, we're at the Water Street Cooker, and that's on Lakeshore, and we all know that in Burlington, there's tons of condos going up all over
Yes.
the place. Are we expecting this afternoon to see some young professionals walk in here, and all
I
of a
hope
sudden,
so.
you know what's going to happen? Your thought of the florals and what have you might be different.
That's true. And you know what? I really do feel at heart that even a lot of my florals and landscapes have an abstract feel to them.
Okay.
So I do feel really I am an abstract artist, although I like to tap into all different types of styles. And I can do whatever my clients want me to do. But I've tried to, even though this show is more themed around florals and landscapes, I kind of have this extra wall of abstracts that I just threw in there just to satisfy that side of my creative side as well.
Now, when you're working with Toronto, we were talking about condos, a lot of condos, right?
Yes.
When you walk in as an artist to a condo, which is usually a pretty staid space, or sometimes a very small space in Toronto, what do you see? Do you see filling the whole space with color, or do you just see, okay, I want a spot color? What do you see when you see a condo as compared to a home?
It totally depends what my client wants.
Okay.
Most time when I'm working with people, I'll go into their space and they'll tell me what they're envisioning. And then maybe I might try and sway them towards, maybe a little bit towards my vision, or maybe we'll compromise in the middle, just because I feel as an artist, and I'm also a designer, that I could give them some advice, and usually they appreciate the advice, right? Because they know what they like, but they also would like the advice of a professional.
Right. Now, we have about 2 minutes to go in this segment. Tell me about Snoopy.
Snoopy? How do you know about Snoopy?
Oh, I know all sorts of different things. Tell me about Snoopy.
Snoopy is my white little puppy that looks like a cotton ball, and he's my sidekick. Actually, he comes to the studio with me every day, and he's my bundle of joy. He's my fur baby. It's the only baby I have.
That's great. I'll throw that in there.
Yeah.
So hey, a little bit more about it. So we're going to go away, and we'll be back in a minute because I'm going to show you some of this art. So stay with us, please. And welcome back. Quick question, Claire. Let's talk about two of the different artworks. You have your abstracts,
Yes.
but the one I really like is this one over here, which is the photo in an art piece.
Yes.
Tell us about that. That's really unique. I find it fascinating.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Actually, it's a funny story behind that painting because it was actually a mistake. It was. You know how that works out sometimes when you
Always
don't.
for me.
Yeah. I actually did the background of that. It was kind of a Jackson Pollock style painting, so it's all the splatters and drippy paint everywhere. And I didn't like the colors that I used, so I painted it over white and was left with this really interesting texture. So I thought, okay, what can I do with this? I don't want to waste a canvas. And I thought it looked like rain, so then I put a coat of oil paint on it, and then, thought I should take a picture of a girl with an umbrella to go with it, to go with the rain theme. And so that's what happened. But definitely that is my most popular painting.
It's fascinating. It really is. We'll have a look at it in a
Thank
minute. Now, so you have an interesting, following that same theme, people can send you a photograph, and you will put that in an art piece.
Yeah, it actually started with this painting. Again, someone wanted me to make this painting for them, reproduce it, but I said, they had a daughter. I said, well, why don't we put your daughter? We can put her in a raincoat if you want with an umbrella, and then it'll be really personal. So from there, that idea was born of putting people's loved ones into a piece of art. So I also do photography. So we would set up a photo shoot, and I've done young children, but then also it could lead into old photographs. I did an old photograph of this man as a little boy, and so that as well, you had a grandparent and you wanted to make, if you wanted me to make a painting of them as a young child, then we could capture that in a painting, and people send me photos that are meaningful to them, and then I incorporate them into a painting.
It's fascinating stuff, folks. You've got to see this lady's work. Honest to goodness, I'm very effusive about many things, but this young lady is incredibly talented, and the story that she's gone through to get to this point is inspirational, for lack of a better term. In fact, it is the only term you should use. Claire Hall, how do people get a hold of you?
You can reach me by my website is probably the best. It's www.claire, C-L-A-I-R-E, Hall, H-A-L-L, design.com. All my contact info's on there, and then if you go on the website as well, you can see all of my work. So
Fantastic.
Yeah.
One last question.
Sure.
What does art matters to you? Why?
Well, I kind of touched on this already, but I think it's so important for people to have a creative outlet and for people to be able to express themselves to the world, I guess. And I'm so lucky that I've found my way to express what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling through art.
Fantastic. On that lovely note, all I can say is unbelievable, truly unbelievable. Stay with me, and Deb and I will chat. Stay with us, please. In Halton County and East Flamborough, the arts do matter. Now, arts community, you have your own television show. Arts Matters. Keep an eye out.
welcome back to Arts Matter. And Andrew, watching you during that interview, you were just jumping around in your seat. You are very excited about this beautiful young artist who's
Yep.
come back to Burlington. But I want to talk to you about something else.
Yes.
You were saying that before we started to do this interview,
Yes.
you were speaking with Claire's dad.
Yes.
And Claire is one of many talented children in the family, and you fell in love with the way that her dad was talking about her.
Yeah, it's amazing, Deb. You know, we talk to people before the show
Yeah.
goes on, and I walked in and I started talking to her dad. Didn't know it was her dad, and he was a nice guy. And he starts telling me about his two other kids, and all three kids are incredibly successful and all entrepreneurs. So you think to yourself, and it's funny because he said to me, oh yeah, they all own their own businesses. And I'm thinking, okay, so how old are your kids? And they're all under 31. So I'm thinking, my goodness gracious. And then to hear Claire talk about mom and dad saying, okay, away you go to Martinique, right?
St. Martin.
St. Martin, sorry, yes. There you go.
Makes a difference.
You kind of understand, because here's a parents who truly adore their children and have given their children the ability to think outside the box. I love that term. And that sort of that I said it got me excited about meeting Claire, because here's a father who's so proud of his child. It was really cool. It was really amazing, actually.
Now, this is something you and I have talked about before. It isn't just about the artist. It's always about the support that an artist has. And one of the things that we've always tried to encourage people to do through this show and anything else that we've been involved in is to have parents be absolutely free thinkers when it comes to their children and encourage their children to follow their passions. I read a statement earlier that said if you wake up and you go to your job with passion, then in fact, you're not really working. You're just exploring your life.
Yes.
And I thought that was very appropriate. And this seems to be what the family is all about.
Yeah, there's no question. The brother does the website, which if you go on Claire Hall's website, it's fantastic. And the other daughter runs a horse products, for lack of a better term, company, a manufacturing company. It's like, wow, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Just because her passion was horses.
Yeah.
So her dad said, well, do something with your passion. And she goes, well, I'm going to find a job or make a job so I get to deal with my horses. So it's fantastic. Anyway, passionate. Speaking of passionate,
Yes.
we neglected to mention this before, but our favorite person who happens to be behind the camera right now is a new daddy.
Yes.
And we talk about passionate man.
Yes.
It's pretty cool.
This is a young man, David Bartlett, who is a new dad to
New dad.
Hunter, and when you see him talk about his son, he absolutely glows. So congratulations, David.
Congratulations, David.
We're very happy for you and Ange, and we can't wait to see what little artist you're going to produce in Hunter.
I know. He's going to have a camera strapped to his back before he's two.
Anyway, it's time for us to go, Andrew. This is a great time that we've had here with Claire and learning all about her family. And to all of you, thank you so much for joining us on Arts Matter. We'll see you again next time.